I'm so excited to welcome you to a great conversation about building relationships, but more than just building relationships, where does that building relationships lead to? My name is Jenny DuFresne. I'm the founder of the Woman Leader Summit, and I'm super excited to welcome you to another conversation about how to build and scale your business to $1 million. So I get asked all the time, like, Jenny, why are you doing this? There's like a whole lot of summits going on and conferences going on. And here's the deal. So I've built a multi-million dollar organization. I've also built several six-figure businesses. And I learned, well, in the first one that I built, I had zero idea of what I was doing and had to learn a lot on the fly. But built that, scaled it. I had 65 employees, a little bit more than 65 employees, and a multi-million dollar revenue every year. I learned a lot of lessons. And so one of the things I started looking around is I look at all my friends who are women business owners, and a lot of folks, they struggle. They get to about $150,000 and it just sort of stops. And I asked myself, well, what's going on? And I found this research from American Express that said that women are the fastest group of business founders in the country, but only 4% will ever hit $1 million in revenue. Only 4%. So imagine if we expanded that to 50%, what kind of change could happen in one's family, community, in the nation. And so myself and my awesome women business leaders who are coming to train at the summit, we all decided, like, look, this is something that is really going to be transformative in the lives of women, getting those steps and how to build a great business. And so I'm excited to welcome today my guest, Natalie Klun. She is an expert at sales and an expert at relationship building, and especially in this space that we're all in right now. You're watching us now in some social media platform, but this is a place that is new for a lot of us on how do I grow my business on this platform? So welcome, Natalie.
Thank you for having me, Jenny.
I'm so grateful and excited to have you. And just so y'all know, Natalie just gave me a little bit of coaching just before we got on here about what I need to be doing to really make sure that the summit actually gets to the people, gets to the women business owners who want to get through that ceiling and break into their next, maybe it's their next six figures, or get on the road to that seven-figure business. So Natalie, tell us a little bit. You were on with us with me. This was last week before last.
Yeah, the week before last, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all blends together. But tell us a little bit about your background and about your passion for relationships, and what does that equate to in this space?
Well, when I really reflect back on my 20 plus years of being in sales and having multiple women-owned businesses and operated, like, very proud of that. When I think
That's awesome.
back, I'm like, wow, my team they were all women.
Oh,
And
wow. Awesome.
so it was just taking inventory of what was really truly the foundation of the success behind everything that I've done. And it has always come back to one thing, and that is relationships. And then you bring in these virtual tools that I'm a huge fan of, but have had my own frustrations in incorporating these tools into my business. And I would say the majority of my sales career has been pre-social media without these sort of virtual tools. And so these virtual tools come into play. And I think the biggest mistake that people are doing, if you're a business owner and you're using social media, is you're treating it like a marketing tool versus treating it like a relationship building tool. And to me, the absolute one way to stand out on social media is to position yourself where you are interested in those who you're connecting with. You've got a mission behind whatever it is that you're doing, and you're interested in building a relationship with them. You're interested in really finding out what they need and how you can help them. But the other side of the coin is also being relatable. So I often think about, when I started using social media, and shiny object is a very real thing. It's so easy to get caught up
It
and
is very easy.
do that. But when you think about the psychology when it comes to building relationships that goes into when you are marketing yourself or when you're just kind of pushing out these one-sided messages, uh, and everybody's doing that, right? So you think about it, there's just a lot of noise and there's a lot of things to filter through. But when you really focus on what's going on with the people that are in your network, how can you have a two-way relationship with them? And you think about the message that both of those approach takes. Now, the first approach, if you're just using it as a marketing tool, it can come across as like, I'm only interested in pushing my own agenda. When you take a step back, and this is what I like to help people in my business and through the process of building quality relationships, using social media, using online tools, so you can hit those $1 million marks. When you take a step back and you really look at what goes into building a relationship with people and how to use the tools and not necessarily try to play the game. Like, I know you said something recording, we were talking about the algorithms, right?
Right,
When you
right.
stop trying to play that game, when you say, okay, here's the message that I want to share, here's the service that I have to offer, this is the contribution that I can make to my network, and you show up consistently and you are connecting with them and interacting with them and engaging with them, and then simultaneously demonstrating the expertise, your specialty, the service, whatever it is that you do. And we can do this through sharing video, through different
Right.
types of social media content, but really coming from the approach of, I'm not marketing, I'm looking to connect with people. I'm looking to build relationships with people. And the only difference between any of us and someone who is like a well-known thought leader or a well-known influencer, the only difference is consistency. So the more we can be consistent instead of trying to figure things out and trying to bang our head against the wall, like it can be extremely frustrating and it's very overwhelming. All of the things that you should do, you shouldn't do, when to post, what not to post, how to do this, how to do that. Just take all of that off the plate and get to the place where you really are focusing on connecting and building relationships with people. That is when you'll see a difference in your efforts in using online tools like social media.
The most important thing that you said of the many things is consistency. Consistency, I think I will tell you over the last I've started listening to Clubhouse. I don't know if I've shared this with you.
Okay.
And I've just been fascinated by the conversations,
Yeah.
right? Like you can pop into any room and there's a conversation going. It's kind of like walking into a coffee shop. And what I've been really like the I was listening to I was in a room yesterday and
Mhm.
one of the gentlemen said he's literally on, and I'm not saying that I advocate for this, but he said that consistency not only is the critical thing, but he said in Clubhouse, he said you have to be on here 8 hours a day. He says I'm hoarse because I'm talking so much. Now, I was like, oh, time out, not doing that. But it was the idea of you got to continue to be in front of people because as people came into his room, there was clearly a relationship there because he'd been doing that. Now,
Yeah.
again, I don't advocate for people to do that because we have lives and things that we have to do. And not saying that he didn't, but if you have a business you're growing and you're working on, you're usually
Yeah.
going to be working on your business. But
Well,
consistency is so critical. Can you talk a little bit about from what you've seen? I mean, your sales expertise and the business that you built, it only consistency would have made it happen, and your relationships part, right? Can you talk about what happens? Like, why do we get what happens to our best laid plans or our best intentions about being consistent? What do you see happens that we kind of check out or we're not consistent? What do you see is the interplay there?
So a couple things. First of all, the guy that has the 8-hour plan to stay on Clubhouse a day, he has an automated system that is sending people that's working for him, and that takes time. Like that takes time to get to a place where we can stay put for 8 hours and let people come to us, and then they're intentionally being directed somewhere else. So I like to throw that out there because I think that's part of the message that's been put out there about social media is we can just turn it on and we make money while we sleep. And it's such
no, that doesn't work.
much more complicated than that.
I could tell you thousands of dollars worth of no's. That doesn't work.
Yeah. And I would add a very big disclaimer to consistency right here. When I say consistency and showing up and focusing on building quality relationships with people, and it's a big job, right? And oftentimes the very first thing that is thought of, like, okay, well, I need to be using social media. I'm busy. I'm running my business. I'm delivering my services. Creating content is time consuming. It can take up a lot of energy. And so we think, okay, I just need to hire someone. I need to outsource it. There's a difference between being consistent and showing up and really hyper focused on the relationships that we have with our online network and just going through the motions. So when I say consistency, I would so much rather see you just get to a place where you could show up once a week with a really great video that a lot of thought went into, and it has you front and center and your energy is there and you're positioning yourself to connect with someone, than seeing those everyday posts that are just going through the motions to post and you've got someone creating those for you because you just don't have time to deal with social media. Now, one of the things that I do in helping my clients is do just that, put them front and center of their content posting strategy while training their qualified support to make sure that they have the support to create all of the assets that you need in order to, considering that not everyone's going to watch video. And when they watch video, they're going to watch it on mute. So you need to have your subtitles. And some people are going to connect more to like a text post, or they're going to connect with an image of you and the text. So there's different ways to create your post. But the whole key is consistency, considering people are building a relationship with you. And if your post and your content is missing you, there's a disconnect. They're not going to connect with you. They're not going to be like, oh yeah, I want to do business with this person. You have to be the main star, front and center of your content posting strategy. And it is a system. So I always say, number one, there's 4 things that you want to consider to be consistent. 1, you got to have a plan. Map it out, have a plan. Know what sort of questions your audience has, what sort of things that they're looking for that you can help them with, and then really show up with that plan that has what they're needing from you front and center, with you as the person that's delivering it, that is building that relationship with them. The other is positioning. So how are you positioning yourself? Are your online profiles optimized to connect with the right people, to connect with the people that you want to connect with? So when you are spending time interacting with people online, does it tell the right story? And then, of course, the third part is people. You got to have the right people. You've got to have the people who are your audience. And there's this myth that's out there that you have to have a large following in order to be successful. And we're going to address that in the summit. We're going to break your goal down to the day, so you will see really quickly that that is not true. And so they go out there and they deploy these strategies to get these large numbers. And then it ends up being a network full of the wrong people. And then, of course, there's not going to be a connection.
Right.
And then the fourth part is what I call productivity. How do you have support? Because I do believe that, anyone who's made over 7 figures, I promise, very likely did not do it on their own. They have support. They have a team around them. But how do we build out your content posting strategy and your online networking plan in a way that has you front and center, but then you have the support behind you that is helping you build what I call your influencer library, your thought leader library of assets that are designed to connect with the people that you're interacting with and connecting with on a consistent basis online. So there's a balancing act, and you have to think about why it's so important to really be strategic instead of just putting it as another to-do.
Mm-hmm.
We're wired to accept what is familiar and reject what is unfamiliar. And this goes to 2 parts. 1, You think about when you connect with someone online in the very beginning, they don't know who you are,
Mhm.
right? And the more they see you, and the more you interact with them, and the more you engage with them, and the more they see your videos or whatever that is coming through the feed, the more you become familiar to them, the more they will begin to build trust in you, right? The other side of this, the other side of the familiar and unfamiliar territory is you as the content creator, as the service provider who's putting themselves out there. It is very vulnerable position to put yourself in, to sit down and create information or inspirational or entertaining type content to share with the world. That can be extremely nerve-wracking. And in the beginning, when you do it, you're stepping outside of your comfort zone, or what I like to call, you're stepping away from the familiar. And that's going to ring off all these alarms like danger, 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 step back, step back, step back. And it's the more that you lean into that, and the more you practice your videos, or the more you put yourself in front of people, and the more conversations you're having, and the more you're interacting, engaging, forgetting about all of the analytics and all of the views and all of the things that they say are considered the success metrics when you show up online. Forget all of that. Just focus on being that valued resource and being consistent. And the more you do it, the less scary it is, the more familiar it becomes. And then that's when you start to really allow the creative side, and you start to have fun doing it, and people start responding to it because they can feel your energy. Even if it's through a screen, I promise they can still feel
Yeah,
it. there's,
absolutely.
there's this ad on YouTube. I want to send this guy this message because the image gives me the creepiest vibe ever, and it's an ad, and I want to be like, dude, you have got to change.
It's not
You
gonna
are
work.
scaring people. No one is going to click on that.
Well, see, you raised a couple of things that I think I know that I've struggled with, and I've struggled with them actually because I watched somebody else. And here's the deal.
Okay.
So, and I think, and again, I think this is really important for women business owners in particular, because we are often conditioned to be, humble, or kind of be behind the scenes, or that maybe we're comfortable behind the scenes, but we have big ideas, a big vision. So I actually, just to share this, had challenges really thinking about putting myself in front of the business, because I watched another business owner who is very well known, who whose image was so much in front of the business that there was no way to step back from the business, right? Like the business was that image,
Yeah.
was that person.
Mhm.
And I would feel like, oh, I don't see any other. And then you look at like an IBM, or, if Xerox is still around, I don't know, or Walmart. Like we know the story of Sam Walmart, or Sam Walton,
Yeah.
but we don't see that person in front of the business. And so I know for myself, thinking about, a huge business, I've not, or thinking about growing beyond a 7-figure business, I've been reluctant to be the face. But I also understand that people,
Yeah.
Target and Walmart, and like they're big now, and they used to probably not be that big. So how would you like coach someone like myself, and I'm not the only one,
Mhm. Yeah.
to find that right place of being the face of your business, but also being able to place, like if you want to sell your business, if you want to exit your business,
Mhm.
how do you do that if you've been the face of the business? I'm really curious about that.
Well, what I would do is I would separate the two entities. I mean, I would say, okay, here's you, Jenny, as the personal brand, right? You are the CEO and founder of your company, and you would really think, okay, what are my efforts? What is my ultimate goal, which is likely to drive or create opportunities for the business. And then the business in itself has its own image and its own thing that it's putting out there. And you can incorporate your team and do those sort of things where people can then build relationships with those that are within the organization, right? But I would say probably the most famous example, and I think we're transitioning into this era where personal brand is super important, not just for the solopreneur or the entrepreneur, but for the businesses, is you look at someone like Gary Vaynerchuk, right? Where he's done a phenomenal job at creating a personal brand, but everything he does creates opportunities for his company. Like, you don't necessarily see VaynerMedia as the person that's putting out the content. You see Gary Vee, and Gary Vee is then pushing or getting eyeballs on the services that he provides. And so you have to really think, first of all, if we're trying to get from 150 to 7 figures, likely that isn't our problem, right? Likely it's not like, okay, I'm going to be exiting this business soon. How do I have a balance between personal brand and company brand? But how do I first and foremost focus on building relationships with those who I want to serve in my business? And then when you get to that point, when you get to that tipping point where you're like, okay, I've got myself as a brand and I've got this company, how do we balance the two, and how can I create opportunities as the CEO, as the founder, that would benefit my company because I have a really solid personal brand and a really engaged network? Another good example is Sarah Blakely from
Right.
Spanx.
Thanks. Yeah.
You
I
don't
just lit.
see, yeah, you
Yeah.
don't see, like, I mean, yeah, you see the ads and stuff for Spanx, but when she puts out content, it's that person. It's
Right.
that person
Her
that we're
story.
working with.
Right.
And I think too, when you have a mission behind why you have the business and what that mission is, it becomes so much bigger than the business, that the best person to be really that face of that business and that mission is you, right?
Right. And I think that's great. And I thank you for sharing that, because I think it is also, and I just listened to a great set of interviews from Sarah Blakely, and just, you realize that, like, you couldn't take Spanx away from her story, but she could certainly exit her company. I mean, it's $1 billion plus or
Yeah.
more company. She could certainly, but it's still her story still drives
Mhm.
it. I mean, so that's pretty awesome. So
Yeah.
we talk. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and I was just going to say, think about it this way. Like, let's say Sarah, I mean, I don't know if she still owns it, or I don't know, like,
Mhm.
the logistics behind it, but let's say she did exit from there. And that is part of her story. And she wanted to go on and create and do something else. Like, that would be her audience would very likely continue to stay engaged with her because they've built a relationship with her,
Right.
which would be the foundation to anything else that she would create in the future. And that's why I always say the foundation to anything that you are doing is relationships. And if we're using these tools that are designed to build relationships in the wrong way, and we're hurting our online
Mhm.
relationships by just marketing to them, market, or spamming them, or trying to automate it. I mean, just humor me for a second. Think about, like, the relationship you've built with your significant other, or like your top paying client.
Right.
Could you imagine how that relationship would have ended up if you were like, here, I'm gonna have my online business manager handle any
Manage you.
communication with
Yeah.
us, or you automate the text messages that you send to them
Right.
that says, like, hey, first name.
Right. Right. You're like, wait, I'm not a first name with little brackets. That's not me. That's not me. But I think you raise things that are really, like, I love this conversation, because I think we've conflated a lot, right? We've conflated the marketing side of it. We've had people run around and say, "Oh, I made $1 million last night while I was sleeping, and it was just because I had automated tools in my business." Yeah, there is definitely, in order to scale, you have to automate, you have to hire. Like, you have to hire people, you have to automate. Those are all true
Right.
statements.
Yeah.
And I think we also have to be patient, and which is not one of my strong suits. It's just not, right, because you get these messages and you're like, so one of my thought experiments a couple days ago, I thought to myself, like, I grew up in the time when there was no social media. We had rotary dial phones, and we had record players, and
Roll it up, paper
we
roll.
had to tune. Yeah, right. We had lots of other things that people haven't. Like, we had what? But, like, we still got business done,
Yeah. And it was
right? I mean, people spilt built. I mean, they spilled built multi-million dollar businesses, and I went back to that, and I sort of sat in that space for a little while. If you had to build relationships, like, to your point, Natalie, like, there's no way that the businesses that many of us come to now, the Target, well, I mean, I'm just using these big box, but you know, the Walton, Walmart, like wouldn't be Walmart if it didn't start with a little store,
It was
and
mom and pop store.
yep, and relationships back and forth, back and forth. Here in Texas, we have HEB grocery stores. You know, guy was, I think it was a guy or a woman, I don't remember, was selling vegetables off the back of their truck in their community, and that has turned into this huge, you know, grocery conglomerate. So the relationships are really important. And I know that's part of what you're going to be training and talking about at the Woman Leader Summit
Mhm.
on July 17th, and really giving people that the tools, or the kind of practical hands-on tools to really apply that in their business.
Yes.
And so talk a little bit about, I know you have you know, one of the tools that I'm excited you're going to be walking us all through is really kind of identifying the concrete thing you need to do and the relationships you need to build. So if you just explore that a little bit before we close out here, that'd be great.
Absolutely. So before I shared that, everyone starts at
Mm.
0. Even Sam Walton, he had
Right,
the first customer, you
right.
know? And so we try to go from 0 to 1,000 or 10,000, whatever that
Right,
is. And
right,
again, it's that myth that we have to have a large network. So
right,
I like to like back it up. And one of the things that we're going to do at the summit is I have a calculator that will plug your goal. And considering the goal is $1,000,000, we're going
mhm,
to plug it into your business,
mhm,
your service, what it is that you are offering. And then we're going to break it down to the day that will tell you how many relationships you need to bring into your world, how many people you need to connect with and build quality relationships with in order to make that happen. And we can do it in a 6-month window, we can do it in a
right,
year window, we can do it in 2 years, however long of a runway you want to give yourself. I can tell you, no matter what, down to the day, how many people need to be coming into your world. And then we're going to talk about the ways that you can show up using social media, considering that it's a relationship building tool. And the marketing side can come like as you're going through and you're building relationships with people and you've got that foundation. Yes, there's opportunities that you could use it as a marketing tool, but the mistake that most people are making is they're trying to automate it, they're trying to outsource it, and they're trying to treat it as a marketing tool. Nobody wants to feel like a lead.
right.
Nobody wants to feel like you're just interested in marketing to them. They want to feel that you genuinely are interested in helping them. And there is a way to do that. And we're going to talk about that at the summit.
That's exciting. I'm super excited for that. And I know every time we have these conversations, Natalie, I'm always like, okay, where do I, you know, where do I need to? Because I think all of us, we've been swept up in all kinds of things, and we're, you know, most of us are overly busy,
Yeah.
overly overextended. And so I just love this, and I'm really looking forward to you bringing your genius, because you've done this, like, right, like the thing that I'm so grateful for, and having you part of the summit is that you've built a huge company, right?
Yeah.
Um, right, you built a huge company,
I have multiple companies and every single one
right?
of them and this is where I got over that hurdle. Like what you were saying earlier about how we had to use the pre-social media tools. When I was able to really grasp this is a relationship building tool,
Mhm.
that's when it completely shifted for me.
Yeah,
And that's when I was like, okay, I'm using this wrong.
right.
And yes, it's easy to get, you know, all,
So easy to get wrapped up.
it is. But if you go and you dissect whoever's saying, oh yeah, you know, I make money while I sleep. I
Right,
promise you, they didn't start off making
right,
money while they slept. They built a network of what I would say are true
correct.
fans or people that they have a relationship with. And then they turned that on to where
Right,
they could continue to serve those people in more of an evergreen automated
right,
way. But you can't do that without the people. You can't do that without the network. And you can't try to lead with that and push people into your agenda. Again, it's a one
right,
sided agenda that people are going to resist because they don't know you. Simple as that. Once they know you and you open that up and you say, hey, I've created this opportunity, they're going to happily walk in and be like,
right,
yes, this is great. Thank you so
right.
much for creating this for us. it's a
right.
very different experience and very different energy.
And I think that you absolutely hit on a couple things that I think is really important. I mean, I'm even thinking about it now. Like I have, the Woman Leader Facebook group, Facebook page, the Leaders Transform Facebook, all these things, and there's X number of people on each one of them. But I think to myself, So I know I believe it was Jim Rohn, I believe, said that, think about your circle of impact
Mhm.
of 150 people, that if you grew a circle of 150 people and you and built these relationships, not just you have a flood of people, but that you're building those relationships with that group of people, that can really be a momentum gainer. And so as you were just sharing that, I was thinking about, oh, I have, I mean, we all get stuck in the numbers, but the reality is it's stuck on the numbers of people that are just a number. They're not,
Yeah,
there's not interaction engagement. And so
yeah,
I think, again, like this is really important for all of us, because whether we have a strictly online business, I mean, social media is an important tool in business building. Like I
yeah.
would say, we can't like
No,
dismiss it, because people now go to our LinkedIn, they go to they try to find, where are you, and
yeah.
but
1 out of
as
3 people use social media to make a buying decision.
you said, 1 out of 3.
Mhm.
That's a lot.
I know.
That's a lot of people, right? And so really for all of us, no matter our business, whether we're in construction, whether we're in cybersecurity, no matter what, it is an important tool.
Yeah.
But Natalie, what your expertise is sharing with us is that it's a relationship tool. It's a place where we, I mean, I even think about my own behavior. When somebody got a hold of my cell phone number and text me when they're having events. And I don't like, if I didn't buy your event already, like I don't have any interest.
Mhm, mhm.
And it's somebody I know, but I'm like, I don't have any interest in that. Otherwise I would have already bought a ticket because I already know you. Right. So there's, am I interested even? Right. Like, everybody that everybody that we're coming into contact, they may not be interested in what we're doing, but they
Right.
might like us, but not really be interested in what we're doing. So we have to be mindful of that
Yeah.
in our relationship building.
Well, we want to position ourselves where it gives them the right to exercise their free will and self-select. And the way that we do that is we just consistently show up and share our expertise, share our stories,
Mhm.
be relatable, build those connections, focus on those connections, and then allow them when we do have something that we want to share, like, hey, I'm putting on this event. There's a different energy when they don't feel like every time you show up you're just trying to push something on them.
Yeah.
But when you show up in the spirit and the energy of giving, and then when you have something that you want to share, that you want to, and if they want to be a part of, then they have that opportunity to join in. It's a long-term strategy. It's a long, like it is really dedicating yourself to the mission of whatever it is that you want to serve and how you serve your network, and creating that information that you can put out there that allows them to really connect, so you become familiar to them. And there's a lot of strategies out there that attempt to bypass the relationship building process. But when you really think about it, they're trying to bypass is what we're instinctively wired for, which is
Right.
connection.
Connection. Right. And it is so this for me, and I hope for those of you who are listening, and those of you who are thinking about what we're sharing, is that it's so powerful. We all want to be in relationship,
Yeah.
right? So why would we treat people online any different?
You don't like what, I mean, it's just
Right.
like you get this random text message, you're like, and I don't
Right.
know if you've noticed this lately, but I've been getting a lot of emails of things that I have not opted in for. So are people
Right. Same
still on
here.
the list, those sort of things.
Right.
And it's just like, so to me, every time I sit down and I invest quality, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm perfect. I have bought into some of those strategies,
Sure.
and then I've had
Sure.
to go and clean up some messes. And then I'm like, never again. I learned the lesson the hard way,
Yeah.
right? But when you take that little extra effort
Mhm.
to just meet someone as a person versus a lead, as an
Mhm.
opportunity for your business, but
Mhm.
just as a person, their response is so different.
It's so different.
I hear
Yeah.
it, like, I'll use LinkedIn, for example. I hear this a lot. People are like, "Oh, I get so many sales pitches all the time in LinkedIn." I was like, "Really? You do?" I don't get that many. I mean, every
Mhm.
now and then I'll get some, but what I and then two people say, "Well, nobody really wants to connect beyond, like, they don't wanna have, like, a virtual meeting," or I
Yeah.
have every week more virtual meetings because of just those steps that I take, and it is because I genuinely want to get to know them.
Right.
My intention is always like, get on and just, what are they up to? And I've met some really interesting and amazing people that then become that support and that advocate for what I'm doing, and vice versa. I can become that support and the advocate for what they're doing. And it's just such a different feel. So then when I do want to share something, they're behind me and they're saying, yes,
Right.
either I want to do this, or I'm going to share it with my network because
Other people.
I
Right.
love you. You're awesome. Right. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just such a different feel, and it moves really, really quickly when you just take a step back and say, okay, my number one focus is connecting and building relationships and just being that valued resource. And then two, it makes it a lot funner when you're doing your content and you're creating your stuff, because it's more in that spirit of sharing and giving versus taking.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, I'm excited for the Women Leader Summit that we're going to be hosting and training on July 17th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So it's short. And what I promise you that myself, Natalie, Melissa, and Dr. Samantha, we're talking about money mindset. We're going to be talking about hiring your first team members and then delegating to them, which is a
Mhm.
challenge for some of us.
Yep.
And then Natalie be talking about relationship building. But we're doing all of this in a real kind of practical, straight no chaser way.
Yeah.
So it's not a lot of rah rah. We're definitely going to be in and help you roll up your sleeves. We're going to be rolling up our sleeves because what we know as business owners is that there's tools that will help us catapult quite literally, because sometimes it's just where our mind is right now, right? I mean, for me listening to you today, Natalie, I'm like, oh yes, I need to refocus on the relationships, which I know are important, which I know that
The-
any business I've ever gotten has always come from a relationship. Any of it. Not I mean, I was just sitting, any of it. It's sitting at a picnic bench, having a conversation with someone led us to a huge client, right? So any of it. So we're going to be sharing and actually walking you through, for those of you women business owners who are thinking about coming to the summit, we're going to actually walk you through and make sure that you get the tools that you need to move your business. Now, that's not 10,000 tools. Each of us is going to offer one. I'll be doing stuff on leadership and being the CEO of your company. So each of us is going to have one or two real tools that you can use that will move you ahead. That's the bottom line. So check us out, leaderstransform.com/WLS 2021. Um, Go ahead, register now, lock your seat down. We're excited to have you all to come. And if you have any questions or anything, you can hit me here on Facebook and let me know if you have any questions. If you have questions for Natalie that didn't get answered, we can certainly make
tag.
sure she gets those and tag her, and we can do that. So thank you all. Natalie, thank you so much. I'm
I
excited. I can't wait to see you on July 17th
Yeah.
or
I just
before.
wanted to add something really quick. Do you mind?
Yeah, absolutely. No,
If
absolutely.
you know someone, like a friend or just someone
Mm.
that is like in the same boat, tell them about the summit, invite them to the summit, because you are going to be getting these tools, and a big part of it is implementing them. And if you have someone that you can have as an accountability or
Yeah,
support beyond the summit, that went through the process with you, that understands the journey that you're on, so not only get a ticket for yourself, but
yeah,
share it with your business owner friends, because
absolutely.
you can support each other beyond the summit, and just be assured that you will definitely implement the tools that you're going to walk away with.
That is so important, and thank you for reminding all of us that we go further together all day long. And
Amen.
in this space, we it's in building a business, being an entrepreneur. The more like-minded people, in this our case, like-minded women business owners that we can gather together who want to grow and do great things from themselves, for their families, and for their businesses and communities, the more the merrier. So thank you again. Make sure you check out leaderstransform.com/WLS 2021. Bring a friend, most definitely.
Yeah.
Things are way more fun together with friends.
Yay,
So thank
yes.
you, Natalie.
Thank you, Jenny.